So what I'd ask you to do is to consider having a block or two. Don't worry if you don't have any blocks. Some boxes or books would do. Sometimes a more sturdy cushion or two is nice to have instead of the blocks. Now, it's not essential to have one of those, but if you do have a bolster, and I'm aware some of you do have them at home, have that ready, as well as a blanket, unless your pet is sleeping on it, then please leave them sleeping. If you don't have a bolster, but you would like to have something very similar, maybe you've got a second mat, or you will just roll up a blanket or roll a blanket around a cushion. Do something like that for comfort. We shall begin our practice in child's pose in a moment. So before we do that, you might want to sit upon your heels. If that's not possible, you can sit on a chair, or you might just simply sit in an easy pose. There is a mudra that I will thread throughout the class today. And that is a very simple mudra that we all use a lot. It is Anjali Mudra, or the Namaste gesture. To come into it, I will ask you to let your hands rest down and away from the body, to let the palms of your hands face forward for a moment. Checking in with both arms, the open palms, and then being on opposite sides of your body. And while you take your next breath in, reach both arms up and over the head. And then bring the hands to touch and draw them all the way down in front of your heart space. You could lightly touch the thumbs towards the sternum. And I'd ask you to lift your heart a little bit into the hand. We'll begin our practice with the chant of Om for 3 rounds. You can close the eyes if that is right for you. And we'll inhale and exhale together. We'll then inhale for the first Om. From these chants that might have brought us a little bit closer together and maybe a little bit more connected with ourselves as well. We will come to our first asana as we tuck the chin in and slide the hands forward. Please feel free to roll over if you are seated on the floor. Now, you could just keep your knees together, but you could also widen the knees, and you could leave your hands touching for now, as you might extend the arms forward. However, in the end, we will practice this with an open Namaste gesture, and you could take your props already, such as maybe as simple as a block to rest your forehead on, to be more at ease in the shape, as we will stay for a few minutes. Or you could grab your bolster, maybe place a block underneath the top end, Widen the knees and then tuck the chin in and rest the forehead down. In any case, and whatever you have chosen to use or not to use in this shape, I will ask you to rest the forearms down and to turn the palms of the hands to face upwards. If you're not using a bolster, you might want to keep the hands a little bit closer than I am currently. Allowing yourself enough movement as you stay in this shape to truly settle in and to acknowledge what your body needs to actually find some kind of ease in this shape. The steadiness is given by the shape, but if you feel it's a little bit too strong for you, you can always pop something in between the legs to release the pressure from lower back as well as from your knees. And if none of that is working, you could practice a reverse child's pose and lie on your back and the knees come into the chest. And as you settle yourself in to stay there, allow the breath to be the center of your attention for now. Notice where's the breath flowing to? How does that even feel? Noticing that the body is finding a way to expand and release with each breath, no matter what shape we are taking on. How precious is each breath in? How comforting is each breath out? A time to focus inwards, a time to reconnect. I will share with you a few words from a book that some of you gotten to like over the last few months. As this time it is more about a mudra or a gesture rather than an asana or a posture. The book says that this is one of the most practiced hand gesture throughout yoga, especially when we're doing sun salutations. Anjali or Namaste Mudra. As the grand preserving force of the universe, Vishnu watches carefully to see when we need a course correction here on earth. Anytime he sees civil unrest, general unhappiness, a unique opportunity for the human race to advance, he will show up on earth to help us out. We've seen his manifestations in great figures like King Ram and Krishna. At one point, he looked at the earth and saw that there was an opportunity to bring more cohesion into the lives of people who were interested in yoga. About 2,000 years ago, there were many fractions among those who practiced yoga, lying on the great serpent Ananta, on the great ocean of possibility. Vishnu noticed his separateness in the practice of yoga, and he thought it would be a good idea to find a way to bring everyone together. He decided to send his liaison Ananta, charging the 1,000-headed serpent with the task of bringing the yoga groups together into one great practice. One day, as she was down on her knees, with upturned heads reaching toward the sky, Vishnu decided to let the grace of his grand serpent fall upon this sweet woman, a woman who was unable to bear child and has asked and worshipped Vishnu for all of her life. Into her praying hands fell baby Patanjali. Pat means to fall in Sanskrit, and Anjali was the gesture the woman made with her hands. This was no ordinary baby boy. He had the upper torso of a normal human, but his lower half was a snake's tail. Apparently, Ananta didn't have time to make a complete transformation on his fall to earth. But who was the woman to question a gift from above? So she loved him and raised him as her own, despite his serpent lower half. Patanjali grew to be the great master of yoga, and he helped the world by uniting all the different ideas about yoga into one grand work called the Yoga Sutra. Sutra meaning thread. And his classic text consists of short aphorisms which pull yoga together into one great fabric. Each little phrase encompasses great wisdom, which has sustained yoga for the last 2,000 years. Patanjali's Yoga Sutras outline several different methods of achieving ultimate happiness or yoga, which is why we are here today. The most well-known of these is Ashtanga Yoga. The Ashtanga Yoga path includes yama, restraint, niyama, observance, asana, seat or posture, pranayama, breathwork, pratyahara, a withdrawal of the senses, dharana, concentration, dhyana, meditation, and enlightenment, that is samadhi. Praying with outstretched hands in Anjali Mudra symbolizes the unwavering belief that whatever one is praying for will soon arrive. Inherent in this gesture is a strong pulsation of faith or shraddha. Faith is what is required to be able to make great leaps and receive great blessings, as Patanjali's mother did. So while you're holding this gesture in its open form, you might consider your blessings. Those things that we are grateful for. I will ask you now to turn your hands around and to place them down on the ground a little bit closer towards your knees, and to just push into them as we're lifting our upper body. If you have been using props, you might want to remove them and keep them close by. As we've been sitting for quite some time on our heels, let's bring the legs forward and extend them out long. Drawing for a moment the hands down by the sides of your hips with your fingers pointing forward, ready for Dandasana or staff pose. The toes pointing upwards. We're getting in contact with the ground, engaging lightly into the lower abdominal muscles while keeping our shoulders down and reaching our crown of the head up high. For some, it might be possible to engage so much into the legs that the heels might take a little bit off the ground. And then we relax that shape. Coming into Sukhasana, or easy pose, as we place one leg down in front of the other. Taking a big inhale as we're reaching both arms up overhead. Please ignore my other arm, as I'll only move the one, and bring the hands down in front of the chest again. Taking our two sides together momentarily. And as we take a next breath in, open the arms out wide. Begin to squeeze your shoulder blades together as you draw your arms back, and then place your fingertips down behind you. Keep the shoulder blades quite close and start to lift more through your heart. If your neck is happy, push your chin forward and guide it upwards, and then take it all the way back. And now pause here. Take a huge breath over the front of the body. And as you're breathing out, let your back around a little as you're taking yourself back into a sitting position. We'll inhale again, reaching the arms up over the head. And as you draw the hands down to the heart, let us twist the body to the right. We'll repeat that on the inhale, lifting arms out and up. And while you bring your hands to the heart now, twisting to the left. We'll keep moving the arms in this way as we inhale, reaching the arms up over the head. Hands come back down to the heart, and again we're twisting to the right. Use your core muscles as we're twisting. Inhale, center, arms reaching out and up. Exhaling, hands to the heart, and we're twisting to the left. Reach your arms up one more time as you inhale. And then as you bring your hands down through the midline, leaning forward, and you might place the hands down, maybe even open the palms up as we started in child's pose, letting the hands slide forward, the head lower down. Pausing in the forward fold for a couple of breaths. Allowing your sit bones to be grounded towards the mat. Your attention either with the gratitude you're expressing to yourself or with your breath. As we roll our spine back up into sitting, let your fingers slide out around and build a circle until they land behind your back. Lifting your knees up from here, and maybe with that lifting your feet up. That's a maybe, so yours to choose. If you're feeling strong, you could lift the arms off the floor as well, turning the palms to face upwards. With your ankles still crossed, no matter feet on or off the ground, change the cross of the legs. Draw your feet back in if you are sitting on the ground, and let your arms drop down by the sides again. We'll take an inhale, lifting the arms up and over the head. We're drawing the hands back down into the heart as we're breathing out. On your next inhale, let your arms reach out towards the sides. And then begin to squeeze the shoulder blades together as you draw your fingertips back and behind, keeping that squeeze of your shoulder blades, starting to lift through the heart, the sternum, and then maybe pushing the chin forward and guiding the head carefully up and then back. And again, we're holding here in Chakrasana for a few breaths, following the breath as it moves over the front of the body, and maybe down the back. tracing the arch of the spine. With the next out breath, please just simply round your back. The head will come up quite naturally. And once we're sitting here, let's reach both arms back up and over the head on the inhale. On the exhale, let your hands come to touch, and we're twisting again to the right. This time we will hold the posture here. You could separate your hands and place the back of the left hand against the outside of the knee. And maybe let the other hand fingertips come behind, or engaging in a half bind behind your back. You might allow the eyes to close as you stay here for a few breaths. Allowing our spine to move into all the different directions. As we release our twist, open your arms up as you breathe, then lift the arms up over the head. On the exhale, come back to Anjali Mudra while twisting now to the left, and we're holding here on the left-hand side. You can again choose to place the back of the right hand this time against the outside of the knee. And maybe the left hand fingertips come behind, or they wrap behind the back for that half bind. Finding a place where your spine is long, where your breath can flow, where you're really getting to move into your back. Maybe lightly, but the core is switched on. When we release this side, open the arms again while inhaling, reaching both arms up. On the exhale, take the hands back down to the heart and lean towards the front. You can open the palms up once more as you surrender into that forward fold. Allow yourself to remain seated or in contact with the sit bones towards the ground. It's not important how far you're leaning forward. It's only an exploration of all the directions we can move our spine into. And as we're curling ourselves back up, take another deep breath, open your arms, and draw the fingertips down behind you gently. Lifting again the knees up. And this is enough. You don't have to take it further, but you may lift your feet off the floor with the different cross of the ankles now. Some might want to lift their hands off the floor and turn the palms up as you extend the arms forward. We will return into easy pose in our most comfortable way of crossing the legs. And as you're landing down, please consider supporting yourself in this round. If you have a wall nearby, like I have, you might actually sit on support against the wall for a moment. Working with a breathing practice for a little bit. So do come into comfort where your spine is nice and upright, however much support you might need for that. You're in your own space, so everything is familiar. And we will take a breath in to reach the arms out and up, lifting them over the head again, and then drawing them down in Anjali Mudra in front of the heart space. And I would love you to keep them there. If this becomes strenuous for whatever reason, it's not that important. We all know we can visualize things even if our physical body isn't cooperating, and we still get the benefits from that practice. So if possible, hold the hands in Anjali Mudra. And one of my first teachers here in Australia said there's two variations. We can really join the palms of the hands together. Keep that effortless as much as possible. There's a huge benefit in letting the palms really join in together, as we heard the opposing sides as well. But you could also have more of a space in between the palms where you're treasuring potentially your own heart and love, or maybe all that you are very grateful for, and hold it like that in front of the heart. So your choice. Let us empty the lungs now first. Long out breath. And as you're breathing in, let your belly inflate and all around into the side of the waist. And as you're breathing out, gently activate the lower abdomen in particular to breathe out fully. We'll do that twice more. As we inhale, opening the belly, nice and relaxed like a Buddha belly. And then switching on the lower abdomen as we're breathing out and drawing in. Do that one more time. Breath in, belly is expanding. And the breath out as we draw on the lower abdomen and gently guide the air completely out of the body. We will extend that in the next 3 rounds. So we'll expand into the belly and then up into the rib cage as we feel that expanding. And as we exhale, we'll bring the rib cage back in and then pull once more on the lower abdomen to breathe out fully. 2 more like this. As we inhale, the belly is expanding. We're expanding into the ribs. And we're releasing the ribs and the out breath and helping the exhalation with the lower belly drawing inwards. If that's not your pace, go in your own pace, that's fine. Inhaling 1 more round, belly is expanding up to the ribs. And then we're releasing from the ribs to the lower belly being active. We will continue this, but expand it even further. So while you're next inhaling, let the belly expand, the ribs open, and lift up through that space just underneath the collarbones. And then take another sip of air in just to top up and fill yourself completely. And as you're breathing out, let the breath escape from above to the ribs. And then the belly is drawing in again, 3-part breathing. On the inhale, let the belly expand, the ribs open, right up to your collarbones, and take another sip of air in so you're completely filled up with fresh air, oxygen, and then you're releasing from the space under the collarbones to the ribs, gently drawing the lower abdomen in to squeeze all the air out. I'll guide you through 1 more time as we inhale to expand the belly, into the ribs, up to collarbones, topping up with another sip of air. And when you're breathing out, upper body releases first, right down to the activation of the tummy. Now I will ask you to continue this way of breathing for a few more rounds, but really owning the pace and acknowledging where you are at with your pranayama or breathing practice. No judgment though, just acknowledging that the breath isn't strained and yet that you're expanding and then slightly contracting when you're exhaling. Don't forget that last sip of air at the end of your inhalation as you continue. Allowing another 2 breaths like this from this point. And when you completed those, resting your hands onto your legs and turning the palms upwards. Just noticing what you can feel, not only within your body as a result of the breath, but also in your hands. If you have something underneath you or you're leaning against the wall, let us come away from the wall and remove our support underneath, taking an all-four stance. Let our fingers spread out onto the ground with their hands about shoulder distance apart, and I ask you to slide the hands just a little bit forward from underneath your shoulders, whereas your knees are at hip distance and right underneath the hips. A very simple cat and cow movement. Bend your elbows in towards your body, lift your tail, lift your gaze as you're breathing in. And then round and straighten the arms while you're breathing out. On an inhale, soften your elbows, lift your tail, lift your gaze. And when exhaling, ground through the arms, extend them, round deeply into the back, stretching up to the ceiling. Let's repeat that for 3 more rounds. Softness to the elbows to create more space in the front of your body, in front of the spine, and then straighten the arms to create more space as you stretch into the back of the spine. 2 more. Once you have completed your rounds, releasing your back into a more neutral position, finding still a strong stance across the tops of the feet, the shins, and through the whole palms of the hands, maybe including the pads of the fingers. We will take an in-breath now to extend our right leg back. As you push the leg out through the heel, noticing how you're going with the stability in this shape. Then point your foot. And as you're breathing out, pull your knee up towards your chest and then tuck your nose towards the knee. We will extend the leg back again as we inhaling, press out through the heel, reach through the crown of the head. Then point your foot, and when you're exhaling, draw the knee up to the chest as far as you can, and then lower your nose towards that knee. We'll do that one more time as we're extending out through the heel and through the crown of the head. And then pointing the foot as we bring the knee into the chest and then tuck the nose to the knee. And this time I'm asking you to step that foot forward between your hands. If you like, can you tuck the back toes under and lift the back knee off the floor? This is just an option. If you do so, rise to your fingertips, extend for a while into the back leg. And if your knees on the floor, still extend into the spine while rising onto your fingers. Now, while you're breathing out, collapse the upper body. And if your knees off the floor, bring that into a bend. And then start to roll yourself up into a high lunge, opening the palms of the hands on either side of your body. While we're inhaling, lifting both arms up over the head. And on the out breath, bring your hands down to Anjali Mudra in front of the chest and deepen your lunge. Now let us open the arms, maybe squeeze them a little bit back as they're then lifting up overhead, touching the hands together and drawing the hands down towards the heart as we deepen our lunge. We'll do that one more time, taking a breath in as we're lifting all the way up. And then a breath out as we bring the hands together, sinking into our shape. Now keep your hands in front of the heart, leaning the torso a little bit towards the front of the room, and lean the weight onto that right foot as you step your left foot next to it and straight into a chair shape. So your sit bones will be wide open. Your lower abdomen that you drain so nicely by breathing in 3 parts draws in gently again to support our shape. Now we're pushing into both of the feet as we're rising up into standing, extending both arms up, holding your prayer position on Anjali Mudra. And as you're breathing out, bring your hands back together and release to the chair pose again. Let us push down into the feet as we're rising, inhaling, Anjali Mudra lifts up to the sky, the ceiling. And on the out breath, the hands touch, and we're sitting back into the chair. We will now change that. While we're breathing in, lifting the arms, but also the right knee lifting upwards. We will step this now back into a warrior one. So take the foot a little bit out, ground it in an angle onto the floor, and have your front knee in a bend. You can always adjust your stance a little bit, finding your hips facing forward with ease, oftentimes easiest done with the gap between the feet towards the front. Now, if your shoulders are challenged, like mine, you might exactly want to stay here. Steady your gaze and feel the ground. Otherwise, you might extend Anjali Mudra back up over the head. Both arms lengthened, and maybe with that, your gaze moves upwards too. Only a choice. We'll all mainly focus on our stance on the ground. So we are combining all our energy centers in this one shape as we're grounding from our base and engaging the body all the way up to the crown or even the prayer above the head. As we bring our hands back down, if the arms were extended on an out breath, we will lean the weight forward a little again, pushing into the front foot and then placing the other foot ready for a tree against the inside of the leg. Try and avoid the inside of your knee, either have your foot above or below, and you could, of course, help your foot to come a little bit higher or even attempt a half lotus pose. Keep your hands still touching at the heart as you grow from the foot on the floor, right out of the hip to the crown. And as it's all about Anjali Mudra today, you might lift that again over the head if your arms and shoulders feel ready to hold there. The arms could be fully extended, making sure that you're not pulling your shoulders out of their sockets. But you might also find soft elbows quite beneficial, a more rounded crown of your tree. Finding the steadiness. And we will change our position now as we inhale, lifting the knee back up in front of you. With the exhale, step that back, but also bring your hands down onto the mat. Bring your knee down to the floor and the other one too. And have a brief stretch back into an extended child's pose. So we're having a glimpse back at the beginning of our practice. And with the next inhale, then coming back up onto all fours. Make sure the knees come back underneath the hips, the hands a bit out from underneath the shoulders, grounding down through hands, pets of the fingers, shins, tops of the feet. And we will now extend out through the right leg. Lead that with the heel and keep as much stability in the rest of the body as is possible. We'll point out through the toes. And with the exhale, draw the knee into the chest and then tuck your nose towards the knee. We'll do that twice more. While you're breathing in, press out through the heel, lengthen through the crown of the head. Then point the foot. As you exhale, bring your knee into your chest. Then your nose towards the knee. And with the inhale, we're extending once more out through the heel and the crown of the head. Pointing the foot, and as you exhale, draw the knee in towards the chest. Tuck your nose back down towards the knee. And then aim with your foot between your hands. Now, as most of you might have done, let's tuck the toes back under and your option to lift the knee off the floor. Even if you keep your knee down, rise to your fingertips now and lengthen out your back as you inhale. And then let's collapse that on the exhale. Curling up the back right from here into a lunge where we're opening the palms of the hands to face forward. Isn't it fantastic how we catch ourselves but with things that we usually do and we're just doing them? Let us undo that, but to repeat what we've done on the other side. So while you're inhaling, reaching your arms up over the head and bringing the hands back to Anjali Mudra as you deepen your lunge, sinking in. We'll do 2 more of those. Inhaling as we're lifting up. Exhaling as we're drawing down. 1 more, breathe in. Exhale. As we hold our shape here, we'll lean the spine a little bit forward and you can start thinking about a chair pose here as we place the weight into the front foot and step the other one next to it for our chair pose. Allowing the sit bones to open, the lower abs to support the shape. Keep lengthening your spine. We'll press down into the feet as we inhale both arms. Anjali Mudra, reaching up. And exhaling as we engage back into Sukhasana, chair pose. Press down into the feet. Inhaling, extending. Exhaling, chair. 1 more, breathe in. Breathe out to touch into chair pose. While we repeat this movement, we will lift our left knee now as we inhale. And we'll step that back into a warrior 2. So you might separate your feet a bit further, ground down the back foot in an angle and bend into the front knee. As we find our stance, the pelvis here shines forward. And you can hold here, work on the stability in the feet, or you could extend Anjali Mudra back up towards the ceiling. Many choices. And you can always hold this gesture in your mind. If your hands are risen, you might elevate the gaze up as well. Otherwise, we'll just focus on what we have with our feet. Maybe even engaging them further, like a gentle pull of the feet towards each other, resulting in our inner strength. Stability and confidence. If your hands are lifted, bring them back down to the heart. Shift the weight forward once more. And as you come towards the front, attempting a tree pose of your choice. Again, you might help your foot to a higher position, but making sure that we're not resting the foot against the knee. And whatever position for the foot you've chosen, ground more through the standing leg, lift out of the hip, right up to the crown. And either hold your hands at the heart or extend the crown, straight or soft arms. Steady gaze as we connect. If your arms are up there, you might keep them there, you might lift them if they aren't, as we bring our left knee back up. And we will step the foot far back and out, turning ourselves into a wide-legged stance where the toes are now pointing forward. We will take a deep breath to lift the arms out and up back to Anjali Mudra over the head. And you might soften your knees as you're now folding down towards the ground. Now, if you like, could you use a block and place that underneath the crown of the head, or whatever else you have there that might give you a little bit of support. It could also be a bolster if that's high enough. While you might keep your hands underneath your shoulders, using the support of the head to help you ground, even like this, and stimulating the crown of the head. As we encourage that light inversion, we're lifting up through the shoulders, gently back into their sockets. Weight is forward in the feet, but the heels are grounded to the floor. And I'd love you to stay there for another 2 long, deep out breaths in which you are engaging your lower abdomen. Once you have completed these 2 breaths, you might place your support near the mat. Wiggle your feet in and lower down to sit. I'll ask you to turn yourself so you could potentially lie back down, which is where we are going. And you might begin this lying down process in Dandasana as you place your hands back down by the sides, while you might get in between busy catching all your items such as your socks, your jumpers, your blankets. And we'll sit up nice and tall as we inhale. Maybe the heels taking off again if the legs can engage this much. But we would allow the heels to lower. And we can gently use the hands down by our sides to roll back down onto the mat. For our last asana as such, let us turn the palms of the hands upward. Step our feet down onto the mat in about hip distance. And just walking them up towards the buttocks, doesn't have to be pulled in, so we can round our feet down at hip distance apart. Then gently draw the shoulder blades under and together while the arms will be open. And while you're inhaling now, tilt your pelvis so the spine is flat. And then squeeze your bottom as you're breathing out to lift the hips. And you could use a block or a cushion and slide that underneath the sacrum, either if it's a block flat or maybe even further up. Keeping your shoulder blades under to broaden that space here in front of your collarbones. Keeping your chin just a tiny bit away from the chest, although the chest is moving closer towards it. So you've got a space behind your neck. And then see if you can relax the lower body into this. Nothing else to do but a supported bridge for now. If you feel that the supported version of this asana is right for you, you can stay right there. If you would like to add a bit of strength, start to squeeze the buttocks muscles again so we can lift our hips away from the block. Remove this item and hold your hips up there, drawing your tailbone up in the direction of the backs of the knees. So giving that an extra lift and engagement. We will stay in our bridge for only 2 more breaths. If you're still having a supported bridge, you will also squeeze the buttocks, remove that item from underneath, and we will have a long out breath, maybe even 2, as we aim to touch each vertebra down to the floor at a time. Once we landed our hips down, you might gently rock the knees from side to side. We've moved our spine in all directions, and unless you have something going on that requires another movement for you, then please have that. We can release our bodies into Shavasana from there, or constructive resting pose if that's more comfortable. You could, for that, step your feet to the edges of the mat and let your knees drop in towards each other. You could also use your bolster or cushioning underneath the knees, or you could just simply slide the legs out, keep them separate, the toes pointing outwards, shoulder blades still lightly under. And if you're comfortable with that today, you can close the eyes. Don't be surprised if closing of the eyes in these practices at home doesn't quite work at this stage. Or be surprised if it doesn't work in the class and suddenly works here. Allowing yourself to find stillness. The whole body still and motionless. As the palms of the hands are open on either side of your body, you might acknowledge these 2 sides, the different qualities they might have. You could extend that down into your legs, that awareness, the 2 sides. And then begin to think just about the right side of your torso, the right hip, the right side of the waist, the right side of the chest, the shoulder. And then moving on to the left side as you think about the left hip, waist, chest, and the left shoulder. Let your awareness travel up your neck and feel the head grounded onto the support on the floor or the cushioning. But on the other side, there's the face that is soft and relaxed. The body completely relaxed. 2 sides joined in together. at one being on the mat. I will give you options for the rest of our practice, as you might just simply choose to stay lying there. If it is possible though, I would ask you to bring the hands back into Anjali Mudra in front of the chest. As usual, the preference for the mindfulness would be to sit yourself up and get to an upright spine. Yet sometimes the lying position gets you deeper into the meditation than the seated. So make a choice depending on how you are today. And if you do want to come to sit, you might allow a few little movements to get you there, and maybe even use your support or the wall behind your back. We will settle back into Anjali Mudra if you haven't done so yet, by joining the palms of the hands in front of the chest and maybe the thumbs lightly touching the sternum. If you had a space between the hands at the beginning, you might now join the palms if that works for you, and the other way around. Feeling into this mudra once more, while I will continue reading a little bit more about it. Well, Namaste and Anjali are generally interchangeable names for a similar gesture. There's no myth associated with the Namaste Mudra. Namaste is a sort of variation on Anjali that helps us in our efforts to find a balance. The word Namaste is also an important and pervasive aspect of today's yoga practice. We end classes with the gesture of bring our hands to prayer and the salutation Namaste. This is reflective of yoga's end goal. Ultimately, yoga seeks to join all opposites and dissolves any illusion of separateness that may exist. Anytime we weave the inhalation into the exhalation, look for similarities between ourselves and our partner, or watch as day slowly turns to night with no definitive break in between. We experience the presence of yoga that is all around us. This process can be experienced internally too, as described in another classical text, Hatha Yoga Pradipika. In the Pradipika, the concept of duality is introduced as a sun and moon within the body. The sun representing the right side of the body and the moon the left. The ultimate aim of asana practice is to use various methods to dissolve this opposition and allow our energy to be unified. The goal is a feeling of true balance within the body and mind. Constant flow of energy, thought, and behavior that favors neither light nor dark, good or bad, up nor down, lazy nor energetic. It is the opposition that actually shows us how to find balance. Like a pendulum swinging from side to side, that eventually comes to rest in the center. And for a yogi, the center is the heart. During asana practice, we work and allow our energy to become balanced. Stretching our muscles creates the space for this to occur, as does deep, steady breathing. We remind ourselves of this search for balance by bringing our hands together in prayer in front of our heart. This is called the Namaste Mudra. Namaste means reference to you, which can be more poetically translated as the light in me honors the light in you. We do this periodically throughout our practice. It becomes a touchstone for us to remember where we have come to our mat and what yoga means to us. Both Anjali and Namaste Mudra represent the crux of yoga practice, just seemingly opposing forces such as masculine, feminine, rational, emotional, sun, moon, being joined. And these gestures will bring both the right and the left side of the body together at the heart. And I will invite those of you who want to complete your practice with me to, if you haven't done so yet, come to a seated pose, holding Anjali Mudra in front of our own heart. Bowing our heads very lightly towards our own heart space, connecting to our inner light so that we can share it and connect to the light of everybody else in our space here together as we bow. Namaste.